Hello everyone and welcome back to Turkish Series Stars. It's so good to have you here this afternoon, and today's date makes the buzz feel even more electric. We've been following a wave of whispers that turned into something louder overnight, and the title you clicked already hints at the tremor-shaking timelines. The surprise surrounding Erkan and Hazal has left many fans stunned, and believe me, we felt that jolt too. These two aren't just familiar faces on your screen. They've become a symbol of on-screen magic and off-screen intrigue, a pairing people never quite forget even when life moves on. Whenever their names land in the same sentence, curiosity spikes. Today, we're unpacking what's behind the sudden storm, why insiders are calling it a game-changer, and how the audience is reacting from excitement to uncertainty in a matter of hours. First, if you're new to Turkish Series Stars, don't hesitate to subscribe and stay close. It costs nothing but helps us bring you more of the stories you love. And now, let's get to the heart of the matter, because the swirl around Erkan and Hazal has moved from rumor to something that feels very real. What's being said isn't the usual talk of a reunion drama or a romantic film. No, the strongest rumor points to a joint move that steps beyond script pages and filming sets. The word is that they're preparing a project that doesn't fit neatly in a trailer or a season premiere, something positioned between business and creativity, with the potential to redraw the lines of how these two share their craft with the world. For anyone who's followed their journeys, the idea is electrifying. Erkan, disciplined and quietly strategic, has long cultivated an image that blends focus with ambition. Hazal, measured and artistic, has consistently shown taste, restraint, and a feel for characters that turn heads without shouting. Together, they built a legacy of chemistry that began for many viewers in Adini Sinkoy, a time many fans still talk about with the kind of warmth reserved for stories that arrive when you needed them most. So why is this development so shocking? Because it hints at a partnership that isn't just about co-starring, but about co-owning. The rumor suggests a venture that belongs to them, shaped by them, and steered on their terms. Sources close to the situation claim it's not a standard collaboration. Some say a boutique fashion capsule is in play, something refined and wearable that mirrors their public style. Others insist the real plan is bigger, more ambitious, a production banner with the power to develop the kinds of stories they've been yearning to tell. Imagine Erkan curating scripts that speak to integrity and quiet strength while Hazal shepherds narratives that explore layered emotions, modern relationships, and women's perspectives with empathy. Imagine them assembling teams, choosing directors, mentoring fresh talent, and producing shows that aren't just popular, but also personal. That might be exactly what's about to happen. The boldness of the decision is part of the shock. When two actors with full schedules and established names step off the treadmill to build something from the ground up, it's a declaration. It says they want control over pace, roles, and tone. It says they're tired of waiting for the perfect part and would rather make it. And it says they've grown, not just in craft, but in vision. There's also a practical angle. While they both remain highly sought after, the rhythm of long series can be unforgiving. Owning the sandbox lets them decide when to run, when to rest, and when to reinvent. This isn't about vanishing, it's about choosing. But the big question is obvious. If they move into production or any other venture together, what happens to the projects we're used to seeing them in? Does this mean fewer roles for each, or instead a more careful curation of the scripts they accept? If the rumor of a production house is true, there's an upside fans will appreciate. They could write themselves into parts they've never been offered, expand into genres that don't come knocking often, and bring new voices forward. That kind of independence is the dream of every performer who's ever wished for a more honest mirror for their talents. The reaction online has been instant and loud. Some corners are absolutely thrilled, imagining polished campaigns and striking visuals if a fashion line is real, or falling in love with the idea of a content studio that bears their signature if the production route turns out to be the headline. Others are cautious, worried that a shift into business could mean less time on set, fewer weekly episodes, and a longer wait between the roles that keep people glued to screens. Within hours, fan pages were dissecting old interviews, pulling quotes that suddenly read like breadcrumbs, and debating whether a move like this would bring them closer to or further from the daily presence fans crave. What gives these whispers weight is how neatly they fit with hints both of them have dropped lately. Not long ago, Erkan mentioned that he's been exploring ways to stretch creatively outside of the usual path, an offhand comment that now feels like a tell. Hazal, during a relaxed chat, admitted she was ready to challenge herself with new responsibilities, something that would take courage and curiosity in equal measure. At the time, the remarks felt like musings. Placed beside the rumor, they feel like threads tied to the same knot. If a studio is indeed the plan, the implications for the industry are serious. The current market is led by companies with global pipelines and distribution in place, but vision still moves the needle, and a brand that carries both their names would have immediate recognition. Their fan bases stretch beyond borders, and a slate of projects shaped by them could draw viewers who want stories that balance classic romance with contemporary nuance, or that lean into character without sacrificing pace. Freshness is a currency, and they have it. What they'd also have is leverage. Leverage to negotiate the terms that matter, from working hours to creative final cut. Of course, nothing at this scale happens without resources. The buzz includes whispers of investors already on board, not the kind who just want a logo on a poster, but the kind who believe in building infrastructure. That detail, if true, is the strongest sign this isn't a passing idea but the beginning of a careful plan. It suggests a roadmap with timelines, pilots, and partnerships already being drawn. It suggests conversations that move past maybe into how. Another layer of speculation questions how closely their careers would intertwine if this project launches. Would this make them a duo professionally for the foreseeable future, linked not only by memory and fandom but by strategy and ownership? Some observers say yes, at least at the start. Others point out that a fashion venture could allow more individual expression while still keeping their names on the same marquee. Either way, it's clear that if all of this comes to pass, the connection between their professional choices will be sharper and more visible than it's been in years. Looking deeper, you can see why the pairing makes sense beyond nostalgia. Erkan has cultivated a reputation for rigor and perseverance, a steady presence who builds rather than rushes. Hazal has a keen sense of empathy for stories, a sensitivity that translates into choices that feel lived in rather than performed. Put those instincts together and you can envision a portfolio that blends polish with heart. You can envision sets where younger actors feel listened to, where writers are encouraged to be braver, and where character arcs are treated like promises, not afterthoughts. We reached out to representatives on both sides, and the responses, though polite, were wrapped in silence. No confirmation, no denial, just that familiar pause that tends to accompany something delicate in the making. That very silence has only amplified the conversation. People are reading into airport sightings, timing gaps between public appearances, and the lingering closeness that has always made talk of them feel charged. Even those who prefer to keep a respectful distance from private lives admit this much: the professional part of the rumor would be a smart, timely move. None of this would be unprecedented. Many actors, after achieving a landmark role or two, look for a way to define their own next chapter. For some, that is directing. For others, writing. For many, it's producing, a chance to build a home for the kinds of stories they want to live inside. It secures longevity and transforms a career from something you take to something you make. And yet, because we're talking about Erkan and Hazal in the same breath again, the energy around it feels special. They aren't starting from scratch. They're starting from history. That past doesn't need to be romantic to be powerful. It just needs to be real, and it is. So what should we expect? If the smart money is right and this announcement is on the horizon, we could be about to witness the birth of a label that merges star appeal with a curatorial eye. The first wave might be modest, a capsule collection that sells out in minutes, a proof of concept short, a pilot that tests a new tone. Or they might arrive with something bolder, a flagship production headlined by neither of them, designed to prove a point, that their taste can stand on its own. Either path would send a message. Either path would change the way we talk about them, from performers to architects. Fans are already drafting their wish lists. They want a drama that isn't afraid of silence, a romance that gives agency to both sides, a thriller without empty tricks. They want sets that champion fairness, days that don't turn into marathons, and backstage cultures that feel healthy. These might sound like ideals, but they're also the sort of promises a new banner could make and keep. The hope is that whatever form this project takes, it carries the grace and discipline both of them are known for: less noise, more intention. Of course, the fear remains that we'll see less of their faces in weekly episodes. That fear is valid, and it's voiced by people who simply miss the familiarity of their presence. But there's another way to look at it. If they choose their roles with greater care, the roles they do take might land harder. If they nurture talent and stories behind the scenes, their influence will ripple further than any single performance could. There's a difference between disappearing and redesigning your reach. What we're hearing suggests the latter. As we wait for official word, the timeline speculation grows. Some say an announcement is around the corner, tied to a milestone date. Others think they are still in the final rounds of structuring, aligning schedules, and finalizing creative priorities. We can tell you this much: the conversations are happening, and the circles that know tend to choose their words carefully when they're asked. The sense is that something delicate is being assembled, brick by brick, with the quiet patience both of them have displayed whenever change called their names. In the end, the core of this story is simple. Two artists who once set screens on fire together may be choosing to build something bigger than a reunion. They may be choosing to shape not just what we watch, but how it gets made. If you've followed Erkan and Hazal Sabesai long enough, you know this fits. It honors the legacy without repeating it. It nods to what brought them here without getting stuck there. It trusts that growth is allowed, even expected, when you've spent years proving your craft. So here's our take. If the rumor is true, it won't erase the possibility of future performances. It will simply add a dimension that gives those performances a new kind of context. It will add a room to a house that already holds memories, and it will let them decide what gets framed on the walls. For the industry, it could spark competition that makes everyone sharpen their game. For fans, it could reward patience with work that feels more like them than ever before. That's where we leave it for now. We'll be watching closely, ready to bring you verified details the moment they land. Until then, tell us what you think. If you were in their position, would you build a brand, roll out a fashion capsule, or lock in a slate of original stories? Would you want to see them front and center in their first project, or would it be more thrilling to witness them mentor fresh faces from behind the camera? Drop your thoughts below. Your perspective keeps this conversation alive. If you enjoyed this deep dive, share it with someone who remembers that first spark they created together. Like this video, subscribe to Turkish Series Stars, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Thank you for spending this time with us, thank you for trusting us to trace the lines between rumor and reality, and thank you for loving Turkish series enough to dream big with the people who make them. We'll be back soon, and if the whispers are right, the next time we speak their names in one breath, it won't be because of nostalgia. It will be because the future just rang the doorbell, and they opened it together.